What in the world happened here? Make sure you guys smash the crap out of Alistair, the Reminiscent, so you guys don't miss out on more Alistair. You know, we finally saw out of the weekend, Alistair and friends really brought it home. You know, we saw it absolutely dominated the points qualifier out of Europe, actually being the undefeated, guaranteeing themselves a slot to Worlds, which was fantastic. But also the very same duelist said, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take this deck into Top Cut, and I'm going to get 8th place with it, which is phenomenal. I mean, like, honestly, I am spectacularly happy to see that Invoked was able to do so well. Now, with that being said, though, you know, how our price is kind of holding up with this. Well, Alistair the Reminiscent's not really been the one to do the crazy price hikes. It's been things like Magical Meltdown, you know, those QCRs that we've kind of followed up on in the past, which kind of love to go crazy. Seeing $70, $80 on those is very crazy. But there's also, you know, dear old the Invoker of Madness himself, which has now pushed up to being a $30 collector's rare. That's a whole lot of yikes and yikes. Just to kind of think about here that all of this Alistair the Invoker good stuff has really started to weigh on the other options around it. So, hey, you know, if we learned anything about the WCQs out of the weekend, the fact that we do physically have Alistair merchandise and Alistair itself, you know, becoming one of the more spectacular choices within the meta that players want to kind of play with, I think is kind of funny. So, congratulations to seeing the Invoker of Madness do its job. Now, Spiritual Water Art Awe was not one that I really expected to see. Right now, the lowest near mint Spiritual Water Art Awees are about $50 a piece. Take a second to think about that. Are you really going to spend $50? Now, there's very few $30 copies left on the market, but it's kind of crazy to think about here that you can, just for a card that saw very niche interaction points within Sky Striker, because typically I think Sky Striker was the last one that chose to play this, because you would end on the Shizuku, you'd generate the advantage, but then, you know, you would use the Spiritual Water Art Alley to look at your opponent's hand and then ping something from their hand, which was, I mean, it was decent advantage, but, you know, you traded off your Shizuku. Now, unfortunately, the current Sky Striker deck has been forced to kind of build into more of the OTK sense of things, and obviously, you know, that or board break the opponent for the attrition long game. You can't really afford the Spiritual Water Aoi slot within the deck anymore, but I don't think that that's necessarily terrible. You know, having the meta shifting around these cards and showing that, you know, there is differences within the deck building space to work with is pretty good. But honestly, man, Spiritual Water Aoi, I think it desperately needs a higher rarity printing. That or they need to print it in an Ultra, which there is Mavens coming around the corner. There's very highly likely a topic of conversation where we do see Spiritual Water Aoi receiving that much needed Ultra upgrade. But also, to be fair, I mean, I think the super rare probably will still remain at its decently high price point just for collectability's sake. You know, people do like having access to Aoi because the card is still incredibly useful. The Pot of Sloth situation. So, Saturday, we talked about that this card was one of the hottest, if not the hottest commodity asked for on the NAWC Q4. The only reason why I know this, my friend was trading all weekend long. He was going around just having a good time talking to people, engaging, you know, in the sport that is called trading. You know, getting to know people, having a blast. Honestly, it's kind of fun. And the most asked for card that people wanted was, of course, Pot of Sloth. We saw going into Sunday, Pot of Sloths had hit the $70 mark. You know, they were actually kind of starting to take off of 70. Monday rolls around. We get to see Pot of Sloth has actually tried to push underneath the $70 mark. It's not being very successful at it, but The reality of the situation right now is now everybody understands that Pot of Sloth, actually this card does not suck. It's actually quite the opposite. You want to be able to have these copies to actually be able to kind of help you out in board break right now. Who would have guessed, right? A spell card that allows you to sift into your deck, and then not only allows you to find important cards, but it also allows you to take bricks that you've drawn that you need to search along your combo way. You can actually tuck those back into your deck so that you can actually engage with searching them. Such a strangely broken concept, all wrapped up on one exceedingly broken spell card. And you know what? I'm really not surprised to see this card actually doing what it's doing right now. So if you're surprised, Pikachu face, with looking at the interactions with Pot of Sloth and just overall looking at how this card is kind of presenting itself, don't be. All right. When we have staples that people think shouldn't be this high, and then, they break through the metagame scene and they really do push those numbers, that's what you get. This one was kind of interesting to me. Vidos, the Dragon of Extinction, actually is pushing up to the $4 mark right now. Now, this is not on the secret rare. This is actually on the ultra rare. Seeing that the ultra rare is, I guess people finally got the memo that eating your opponent's field spell actually is kind of important. You can actually screw over other decks in the meta, and you actually can play the game. Strange concept, I know, but the field spell in more recent years has kind of turned into like a massive advantage generator. The card is just able to do so much, and especially when you're going into a toon meta here in the future, having Vidos being able to punt that field spell off of the field while, giving itself to the opponent, giving them a body to do link plays might not seem too luxurious, but I mean, it's a quick effect, eat a field spell. There's not a lot of other mechanics in the game that you can really try to work with that and try to use. And I mean, I think that's fine, honestly. As field spells continue to grow in popularity, also going into the Cool Toon matchup, being able to eat their field spell so that they can't actually extend with it does feel pretty good. Also, it's not like they can really do anything with the body because they're a synchro deck. You're parking a level 9 on their field. I guess like if they've got a rotary, they could try to make they can't, because Mr. Vidos isn't even a tuner monster. So, he's just going to be a dead 2800, 1500 parked on their field that, if this card is sent from your opponent's field to your graveyard and destroy all monsters on the field, it is actually a board wipe if you can actually get it destroyed off of the opponent's field. Little things to think about. I also want to talk about how Magnificent Monsters is holding up. Right now, Magnificent Monster displays are actually down to $574, which is actually really, really good to see. Considering the fact that these started at, I believe we were like $630, $650 for a little while. And we've been seeing like the allocation kind of pushing down a little bit on these. Now, we're still not 100% certain on how much this product is going to effectively hit the populace. We do know that, people are going to be opening this product like crazy. This is probably going to be one of the most opened modern era Yu-Gi-Oh products kind of in history, just because people want to trace those Grandmaster rares. It'll also be very interesting to see how those Grandmaster rares are going to park themselves in today's market and actually just see how they're going to go. Are they going to be, the $10,000 to $15,000 cards that, people are kind of expecting them to be? Or are these just going to be, some little side luxury item that's worth maybe a couple thousand? Either way, we're down to about $575 per display of these. I don't necessarily think that that's too necessarily bad to see, but we're starting to see a little bit of a push down on this, which I think is a little bit refreshing, all things considered. So, what in the world happened here? Just the meta doing meta things, honestly. Natural shifts in time are happening, and it's actually not looking too bad. But please, leave a comment down below, tell me what you guys think, and I'll see your beautiful faces back here in a day, guys. patrons. Thank you.
Thank you so much for watching. Check out these other videos.